For years, fans of Barnwood builders have been asking the same haunting question: what really happened to Johnny Jett? The soft-spoken craftsman with a sharp wit and a lifetime of skill seemed to vanish from the spotlight, just as the show continued to thrive. Rumors began swirling online, heartbreaking claims that Johnny had passed away or that he'd quietly retired due to health issues. Social media was flooded with confusion, tributes, and grief. But as it turns out, the truth behind Johnny Jett's disappearance is far more surprising and far less tragic than anyone imagined. Johnny Jett has always been the heart and soul of Barnwood builders. With his weathered hands, humble wisdom, and quiet sense of humor, he represented something deeply authentic, the kind of old-fashioned American craftsmanship that can't be faked. For over a decade, viewers watched him transform collapsing barns and forgotten cabins into works of living history. But while the rest of the cast embraced fame, Johnny remained different. He never sought attention. He never cared for celebrity. He just wanted to build, create, and keep the past alive. Now, as he nears his late 70s, Johnny's life looks much different. Away from television cameras, he spends his time in the hills of Kentucky, painting, restoring, and living peacefully off the grid. His story isn't one of tragedy, it's one of quiet triumph. But the reasons behind his fading presence on the show and the truth about those persistent death rumors reveal just how misunderstood this man has become. So, what really happened to Johnny Jett? The answer may just restore your faith in humility, craftsmanship, and the enduring spirit of a man who never let fame change who he turned. Johnny Jett's story begins long before the fame of Barnwood builders. Born and raised in Fleming County, Kentucky, he grew up surrounded by the sounds of saws, hammers, and engines, the kind of small-town noise that shapes a man's work ethic early on. From a young age, Johnny learned to fix, build, and restore anything with his hands. Whether it was old tractors, broken fences, or decaying log cabins, he understood the value of preserving things others had thrown away. It was this mindset that would eventually make him one of the most beloved craftsmen on television. Before television ever found him, Johnny spent years doing hard, honest labor. He worked in factories, handled machinery, and took on restoration projects across Kentucky and West Virginia. He was known locally as a man who didn't just build, he resurrected. When Barnwood builders came along, it wasn't looking for actors or personalities. It was looking for real people who lived the life they showcased. Johnny fit that description perfectly. His deep knowledge of old-world craftsmanship and his down-to-earth personality made him a natural fit for the show. When Barnwood builders premiered, audiences were instantly drawn to him. He wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't chase the spotlight. Instead, he had that calm presence. A man who could tear down a 200-year-old barn with the precision of a surgeon while cracking a quiet joke that left the crew laughing. Viewers felt like they knew him personally, like he was the kind of man you'd trust to fix your porch or share a story with over a cup of coffee. As the show gained popularity, Johnny became one of its most recognizable faces. But even with fame knocking on his door, he never changed. Unlike many TV personalities who embraced social media and public appearances, Johnny avoided them entirely. He didn't have flashy cars or big city ambitions. His joy came from simple things, working with wood, painting, and spending time in nature. He saw beauty in what others considered old or broken. That was his gift, to take something forgotten and make it whole again. But as years went by, fans started noticing something strange. Johnny was appearing less frequently on the show. Episodes that once featured him prominently now showed only brief moments or none at all. That's when the rumors began. Some viewers speculated that he had retired due to health problems. Others feared the worst, that he had passed away. The internet quickly filled with false reports, including an obituary for a different man named Johnny Jett that mistakenly went viral. The confusion was so widespread that even devoted fans believed it was true. For a time, it seemed like Johnny had vanished without explanation. The show continued with new seasons, and while the crew still mentioned him occasionally, no official statement was made about his absence. That silence only fueled more speculation. Yet behind the rumors, the truth was much simpler. Johnny Jett was very much alive. According to those close to him, Johnny simply decided to slow down. After decades of grueling work and years under television cameras, he wanted a quieter life. The physical demands of dismantling barns and hauling heavy timber were no longer easy at his age. Instead of pushing himself to exhaustion, he chose peace. He began spending more time at home in Kentucky, working on art and smaller restoration projects at his own pace. Fans who have followed his work know that Johnny is also a talented painter. His artwork, inspired by the same rustic beauty he restored for years, has found its way into homes and galleries through his online store. It's a softer, more reflective side of him that many people never saw on television. Through painting, Johnny continues doing what he's always done best, preserving the beauty of the past. So while the world worried about his absence, Johnny Jett wasn't gone. He was simply living life the way he wanted, quietly, honestly, and surrounded by the things that have always mattered most. Yulee was. As Barnwood builders continued to thrive on the Magnolia Network, the show's fans couldn't help but notice how much they missed Johnny Jett's easygoing humor and old-school craftsmanship. For many, he wasn't just a member of the team, he was the soul of the show. His ability to make tough work look effortless, his quiet laughter, and his unshakable patience became something of a trademark. Even the show's host, Mark Bowe, often referred to Johnny as the heart of the crew, a man who taught everyone around him to respect history and hard work in equal measure. But as the spotlight grew brighter, Johnny began to pull away from it. Fame never sat comfortably with him. While the rest of the world celebrated him as a television personality, he saw himself as just another builder. He didn't want to sign autographs or attend press events. He wanted to keep working with his hands, away from cameras and bright lights. In a world where everyone seeks recognition, Johnny preferred peace. That decision, however, made fans worry when he started to appear less often on screen. The truth is, life on the show could be physically demanding, and Johnny was no longer a young man. Years of lifting, hauling, and working in the elements had taken a toll on his body. The long filming schedules and travel between states made it difficult to maintain the slower, grounded lifestyle he valued. He wasn't fired, nor did he quit out of anger. He simply stepped back to protect his health and preserve his love for the craft. Those close to him say that his decision came from wisdom, not weariness. At home in Kentucky, Johnny built a quiet world that reflected who he truly was. His property is filled with tools, scrap wood, and remnants of old structures he's restored over the years. Neighbors occasionally see him working in his shed or tending to small restoration projects, sometimes even taking on community work to help preserve local history. It's a far cry from the fame of television, but for Johnny, it's exactly what he wants. What many fans don't realize is that Johnny's creativity extends far beyond carpentry. In his later years, he found a new form of expression through painting. Using vivid colors and rustic imagery, he began creating artwork inspired by the very barns and landscapes he spent his life preserving. His paintings often depict rolling hills, weathered fences, and sunlit cabins, visual tributes to the simple beauty of rural America. Through this art, Johnny continues to celebrate the craftsmanship and culture that made him who he is. And while the internet was busy spreading false stories about his death, Johnny was very much alive, painting, building, and laughing about the irony of it all. In interviews, his co-workers gently addressed the rumors, assuring fans that Johnny was healthy and still part of the Barnwood builders family, even if he wasn't appearing as often. Mark Bowe once said, "Johnny's still Johnny. You can count on that." Those words comforted millions of fans who feared the worst. It's easy to understand why those rumors took hold. In an era where celebrities live online, Johnny's absence from social media made him seem like a ghost from another time. He doesn't post updates, share selfies, or chase trends, and that's exactly how he likes it. To him, privacy is freedom. Fame may have found him for a while, but it never defined him. Today, Johnny Jett's legacy lives on not just through the show, but through the countless barns, cabins, and artworks that carry his touch. His life reminds us that happiness isn't about being seen. It's about doing what you love, even when no one's watching. For Johnny, the truest reward was never fame or fortune. It was the quiet satisfaction of saving something old from being forgotten. For Johnny Jett, the path to peace wasn't built overnight. After decades of hard labor and long filming hours, slowing down took some adjustment. At first, he reportedly struggled with the idea of stepping away from the Barnwood builders' family he'd worked beside for years. The show had become more than a job. It was a brotherhood. Each member brought something unique to the table, but Johnny's wisdom and calm presence held it all together. Without him on screen, fans could feel something missing, a kind of quiet stability that only he could bring. Still, even away from the cameras, Johnny's bond with his crew remained unshaken. Mark Bowe, the team leader and longtime friend, often spoke about Johnny's influence on both his work and outlook on life. "He taught me patience," Mark once said. Johnny sees the story in every piece of wood. He doesn't just build, he listens to it. That kind of insight captures why Johnny Jett stood apart from the typical television craftsman. For him, rebuilding wasn't about fame or profit. It was about preserving memory, honoring the generations who once lived inside those timbers. As he eased into retirement-like life, Johnny redirected his energy into art. His paintings, filled with rustic barns and weathered landscapes, became deeply personal reflections of his identity. Each brush stroke echoed the same care he gave to every structure he rebuilt on the show. Fans who discovered his artwork online were amazed by the emotional depth in his pieces. They weren't just pictures. They were stories frozen in time, of labor, love, and the simple beauty of the American countryside. Still, the rumors of his passing continued to circulate online. Every few years, a false obituary or a misinformed blog post would resurface, spreading confusion all over again. Johnny, ever private, never publicly addressed the hoaxes. He let the noise fade naturally, much like an old barn weathering a storm. The people who truly knew him, his co-workers, friends, and loyal fans, knew the truth. Johnny Jett wasn't gone. He was just living differently. Those who've caught glimpses of his life say he's never been happier. He enjoys quiet mornings, long drives through Kentucky's back roads, and afternoons spent sketching ideas for new art projects. Sometimes he still works on small restoration tasks with local builders, teaching younger generations the importance of craftsmanship. To them, Johnny isn't just a television figure, he's a mentor. His lessons go beyond the technical skills of carpentry. They're about patience, humility, and respect for history. One of the things that make Johnny's story so moving is how it contrasts with the modern idea of success. Most people in his position would have capitalized on fame, endorsements, appearances, social media, but Johnny turned it all down. He never cared for red carpets or interviews. His idea of happiness is quiet, grounded, and far removed from the chaos of celebrity culture. It's why fans love him. Because even in a world obsessed with attention, Johnny Jett remains the same hard-working, humble man he's always been. And though he doesn't appear in every episode anymore, Barnwood Builders continues to honor his presence. His influence is visible in the team's respect for craftsmanship and their mission to preserve American history one barn at a time. Every time they raise a reclaimed beam or restore a cabin, Johnny's spirit is there. In the attention to detail, the reverence for the past, and the laughter that fills the workspace. In many ways, Johnny Jett represents something bigger than just a builder. He embodies a disappearing way of life, where a handshake mattered more than a contract, where a day's work meant something, and where people found pride not in wealth, but in creating something that lasts. His quiet withdrawal from fame isn't a tragedy. It's a reminder that the truest success is found in peace, purpose, and the satisfaction of a job well done. Today, as Johnny Jett enters the later years of his life, his story stands as a lesson in humility, legacy, and the quiet dignity of craftsmanship. While the world often measures success by fame and wealth, Johnny's life reminds us that real success can look very different. It can be found in a barn rebuilt with love, a painting brushed with care, or a simple life lived honestly. Friends say that Johnny spends most of his time surrounded by the same things that defined his career: wood, tools, and the smell of the outdoors. He rises early, just as he always did, and often walks through his property, where reminders of his long career rest all around him. Old timber beams, rusted hardware, and half-finished projects sit quietly in the background, not forgotten, but waiting for his next burst of inspiration. For a man like Johnny, work has never been a burden. It's a form of peace. Though he rarely gives interviews, those who've spoken with him say he's content. He doesn't miss the cameras or the attention. He values the friendships that remain from the Barnwood Builders team and takes pride in the show's ongoing success. Even without his regular on-screen presence, his influence still runs deep within the crew. Many of the team's techniques, design choices, and traditions can be traced directly to Johnny's guidance during the show's early seasons. When fans write letters or post tributes online, Johnny sometimes responds through friends or through small notes shared by the Barnwood living team. He thanks people for remembering him and expresses gratitude that so many still care about his work. That simple gesture shows who he truly is: humble, grateful, and grounded. Over the years, Johnny's name has become synonymous with integrity. He represents a vanishing generation of builders who see value in things others might discard. To him, every old beam carries a story, and every scar in the wood is proof of life. That philosophy has touched millions of viewers who now look at old barns and cabins differently, not as useless relics, but as symbols of endurance and history. Still, the reality of time is something Johnny accepts with quiet grace. He knows that age slows the hands, that the body can no longer bear the same weight it once could. Yet, even in slowing down, his purpose hasn't faded. He may not build every day, but he continues to create through his paintings, his mentoring, and his unspoken example. To younger builders, Johnny's life is a map of how to live with passion without losing yourself to fame. What's most touching about his story is that, despite all the rumors and misunderstandings, Johnny Jett has never tried to correct the public with grand statements or press releases. He simply keeps living, letting his life speak for itself. That quiet strength, the choice to live authentically, is perhaps what makes him so admired. When the day eventually comes that Johnny lays down his tools for good, his legacy will already be secured. He's left behind more than restored barns. He's left a philosophy of work, patience, and preservation that continues to inspire people far beyond the show. His artistry, his humility, and his simple way of life serve as a reminder that happiness doesn't come from fame or fortune. It comes from doing what you love and doing it well. So while fans may still wonder what became of him, the truth is far from sad. Johnny Jett is still here, quietly living out his days in the place he loves, surrounded by the things he built and the memories he's made. He doesn't need the spotlight anymore. He's already left his mark on both wood and hearts alike. In the end, Johnny Jett's story isn't one of loss or mystery. It's one of peace, the kind of peace that only comes when a man's work, life, and heart are perfectly in tune. And that's what really happened to Johnny Jett. He found contentment, far from fame, in the simple beauty of a life well built.